When my mother-in-law cheerfully informed me over the phone that I needed to stay home while the rest of the family went on a trip, she mentioned it would be more enjoyable without me. She even teased that she might bring back a souvenir, assuming she remembered. Originally, I was supposed to accompany my in-laws and my husband on this journey, but plans changed and now I was excluded. Ever since I married her son, my mother-in-law, who adores him dearly, has never missed an opportunity to make cutting remarks or to upset me. I might have a problem with staying behind, I responded, but all I got was laughter from her end as if she enjoyed making me uncomfortable. Consider it a punishment for not following my directions, she quipped, then abruptly ended the call. Well, it's not my problem, it's yours, I muttered to myself. My name is Laura Jean, I'm 32 years old, and I juggle house chores with a part-time job at a local supermarket. It's been 4 years since I married my husband, Eric. We initially met at work, where although we were in different departments, we often found time to chat. Our relationship took a significant turn at the company's year-end party, which was a large event attended by employees from various departments. Luckily, Eric and I ended up sitting together. We were already friends, so conversation flowed easily. At one point, Eric excused himself to the restroom, and during his absence, a senior manager from another department, who had had too much to drink, started pressuring me to drink more. Feeling cornered and unsure, since he was a higher up, I didn't know how to handle the situation. Just then, Eric returned, noticed the discomfort, and tactfully steered the manager away to another table. When Eric rejoined me, he checked if I was all right and made a light-hearted comment about the manager's inability to handle his drink. That moment changed my perception of Eric, and I began to see him in a new light. After I revealed my feelings for him, Eric and I started dating, and our relationship flourished. 4 years ago, we tied the knot, and despite not having children yet, our marriage has been a joyful and robust one. However, living in harmony hasn't been entirely smooth due to one significant issue: my mother-in-law, with whom we currently reside. Initially, Eric and I lived in our apartment, but a disastrous fire in the neighboring building led to our apartment being severely water damaged during the firefighting efforts. With our home rendered unsafe, we were suddenly without a place to live. Thankfully, Eric's mother offered us refuge in her home, and we gratefully accepted, moving in with her. However, this change brought about new challenges. From the outset, my mother-in-law, who is fiercely protective and affectionate towards Eric, began to express her fondness in less than favorable ways towards me. Her critical comments increased, turning daily life into a series of uncomfortable encounters. One weekend, after completing all my chores, I was enjoying a quiet moment with a cup of coffee in the living room. That's when my mother-in-law arrived home, bustled about, and soon targeted me with pointed criticism. "Laura, you're not cleaning properly. You need to devote more time to it and be grateful for your hardworking husband. As his wife, it's your duty to support him. I can't believe you can't even manage that. If you're not content, perhaps you should leave right now," she chastised sharply. Such instances were frequent, and I often felt overwhelmed by frustration, sensing a repetitive cycle of criticism aimed at me. It appeared that her willingness to house us was partly motivated by her desire to stay close to Eric, while my presence was merely tolerated and often begrudged. "Mom, please don't be so hard on Laura," Eric would interject, attempting to diffuse the tension. Yet, he sometimes added, "But there's some truth in what you're saying. Even though she works part-time, Laura should not neglect the household chores." Hearing Eric occasionally echo his mother's sentiments left me longing for more support from him as his partner. The situation underscored the complexity of our living arrangement and the strain it introduced into our otherwise happy marriage. I've always been diligent about the housework, even though I work 4 days a week. I consistently ensure that our home and our family of 4 are well cared for, even on days when I'm feeling under the weather. On the flip side, my mother-in-law, who doesn't work and has more free time, often spends her days out enjoying herself. Living in her house, I felt it wasn't my place to voice any complaints, so I tried to remain patient and cope with the situation as best as I could. Then, an unexpected opportunity arose. One evening, Eric brought up the idea of taking a trip, just the two of us. "Why don't we go to a spa resort next month? The busy season at work has just ended, and I need to use some of my annual leave. It'd be a great way for us to unwind," he suggested. "That sounds amazing," I replied, the idea instantly lifting my spirits. "I haven't scheduled any shifts for next month yet, so I can take some time off." After discussing it further, we decided to arrange a 3-day spa trip in the middle of the following month. Planning to go on a weekday, we looked forward to a peaceful and leisurely time together. I was overjoyed about the plan and started researching our destination excitedly, eager to make the bookings. Just as I was about to finalize our reservations, my mother-in-law dropped a bombshell. "Laura, I heard you and Eric are planning a trip. Why didn't he tell me?" she asked with a tone of surprise and a hint of accusation. Well, I stammered, suddenly anxious about her reaction. Then she delivered the dreaded blow. "Next month is my husband's and my anniversary. I was thinking of celebrating with a family trip to a fancy hotel." Trying to keep the peace, I suggested, "Eric and I were planning on going by ourselves this time. How about we all go together another time?" However, she was not swayed. "It won't be the same if it's not this time. It's our anniversary celebration," she insisted, visibly upset at the idea of changing her plans. Just as the tension peaked, Eric walked in from work. "Welcome home, Eric. We were just talking about the trip," my mother-in-law announced cheerfully, making it sound like an exciting family discussion. "Oh, I'm excited," Eric responded, seemingly aligning with his mother's enthusiasm. Caught in the middle, I felt a mix of disappointment and frustration, realizing that what was supposed to be a private getaway might now turn into another family obligation. I was puzzled about how my mother-in-law learned of our trip so quickly, but it became apparent that Eric might have shared the news with her. Observing my expression, Eric seemed a bit uncomfortable and proposed, "Mom's excited, so let's postpone our trip. It'll be more fun if we all go together." With both Eric and his dad on board with the idea, I felt pressured to agree. "Okay, next time just us, I promise," Eric said, his relief evident as I reluctantly gave in. Although I was disappointed with the turn of events, there was little I could do but accept the situation. To make the best of it, I decided to take charge of the planning. I handled booking the hotels and scheduling our sightseeing activities. As the trip day arrived, I was all packed and ready. The plan was to wake up an hour early, have breakfast together, and then set off. When my alarm rang, I stretched and called out for Eric, only to realize he wasn't beside me. In fact, he wasn't anywhere in the house. Confused, I tried calling his cell phone but got no response. Growing anxious, I called my mother-in-law. "Oh, Laura, dear, what's up?" she answered cheerily. "Where are you guys? Eric isn't here," I asked, a sinking feeling in my stomach. "Isn't it obvious? We're on a family vacation. It wouldn't be a proper family trip with an outsider like you. You'll have to stay home. Maybe we'll bring you back a souvenir if we remember," she replied nonchalantly, her voice tinged with triumph. "Staying home? That's gonna be a problem," I told her, trying to keep my tone steady despite the shock. "Oh, is it a problem for you? Just see it as a punishment for not doing what I say." She laughed mockingly and then hung up abruptly. I covered my face with my hands, feeling the weight of the situation, but instead of breaking down, a surprising reaction took over. I burst out laughing. The absurdity of it all, the sheer predictability of my mother-in-law's actions, somehow made the whole scenario laughably outrageous. Faced with the unexpected solitude after being left out of the family trip, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I quickly went online and booked a beautiful hotel in the tourist spot we were originally supposed to visit. Along with that, I reserved a table at a renowned restaurant to enjoy a fine dinner alone. After preparing for the day and enjoying breakfast, I felt invigorated and ready for an adventure. "All right, time for some fun," I told myself, grabbing my luggage and catching the train. I had thoroughly researched various attractions and was set on enjoying a vacation despite the circumstances. It crossed my mind that I might run into Eric and my in-laws since it was a small tourist spot, but I shrugged off the concern. They were the ones who had opted to leave me behind, and I was determined to enjoy my time without them. Upon arriving, I spent the day exploring. I visited charming boutiques, had tea in a trendy cafe, and engaged with locals, thoroughly relishing my solo journey. As evening approached, I headed to the hotel I had booked, one of the top luxury spots in the area. This indulgence was my way of rejuvenating and taking a stand for my happiness. As I walked towards the hotel's check-in counter, a commotion caught my attention. A woman's voice, loud and upset, echoed through the lobby. "Why can't we stay here? We're willing to pay." Curiosity piqued, I glanced over and, to my surprise, saw it was my mother-in-law causing the scene. Of course, they weren't allowed to stay. This wasn't the hotel I had reserved for our original family trip. From a distance, I noticed Eric spotting me. "Hey, Laura, what's going on? We couldn't stay at the hotel you booked, so we have to find another one, but they're all full," he explained, approaching with a mixture of confusion and frustration. His mother, trailing behind, looked furious. "Well, that's what happens when the person who booked the hotel isn't here to check in. It's a security policy," I explained calmly. At that moment, it seemed they realized their oversight and exchanged looks of surprise. Just as they were about to escalate the situation, hotel staff intervened, escorting my mother-in-law out of the hotel with polite firmness. Amidst the unfolding drama, she declared boldly, "Remember this, we will stay in a place far more luxurious than this hotel," before she and Eric departed. Feeling a mix of relief and vindication, I proceeded with my check-in, leaving them to sort out their accommodations. The turn of events, although unplanned, underscored a peculiar kind of justice as I embarked on my solo retreat. After completing my check-in, I was escorted to my room, which was beautifully decorated and gave off a luxurious vibe, making it feel like a dream come true. I unpacked my luggage and then decided to explore the hotel. After wandering around for a bit and soaking in the grandeur, I returned to the lobby where more guests were arriving. I settled onto a sofa and drifted into a daydream for a while. Soon, 3 young women sat next to me, bubbling with excitement about their stay. Their conversation quickly caught my interest. "Hey, did you hear about that hotel near the station?" "There's a creepy rumor going around about it," one of them said. "They say if you stay in a second-floor room, you start hearing things that aren't there. Stuff gets moved around or stolen, and even worse, there was a case where someone died under mysterious circumstances. We're so lucky we're staying here, right? Do you think it's true?" the other woman pondered. "But why hasn't anyone been arrested? I mean, you'd call the police if something like that happened, right?" the first replied. "Well, there are rumors that even the hotel staff might be involved. It sounds like a dangerous place," the second added with a shiver. Realizing the time, I quickly got up and headed to the restaurant for my dinner reservation. The meal was incredibly satisfying, and after dinner, I returned to my room for a relaxing bath, changed into my pajamas, and settled in to watch some TV. That's when my phone rang. "Hello, we found a hotel to stay in, and it's nice. It's a shame you're not here with us, but don't worry, we'll enjoy it twice as much for you," my mother-in-law said cheerfully. "Oh, is that so? Well, you're lucky to find a place at the last minute," I replied casually, hiding my irritation. "Yes, it's quiet and relaxing here because there aren't many other guests around. Plus, it's so close to the tourist spot and the hotel itself is gorgeous. I wonder why that is," she continued. That's when it struck me. "Could it be the hotel near the station?" I asked, a note of concern creeping into my voice. "Yes, that's the one. Why do you ask?" she responded, seemingly unaware. Remembering the unsettling story I had overheard in the lobby about the hotel's bad reputation, a sense of urgency filled me. "I think you should leave," I warned my mother-in-law, hoping to convey the seriousness of the situation. My mother-in-law just laughed off my warnings, suggesting I was jealous of their find. "Are you jealous that we found a nice place to stay? Well, too bad for you. Bye." Once again, she ended the call abruptly without giving me a chance to explain further. I decided not to call her back. I had given my advice, and that was enough. Choosing to disconnect entirely, I switched off my phone to avoid any more disruptions to my peaceful evening. I spent the rest of the night enjoying some much-needed relaxation and drifted into a peaceful sleep. The next day, after checking out of the hotel, I spent some time visiting the tourist spots I had missed the previous day. I returned home content as the sun was setting, noticing lights on inside the house, signaling that my in-laws and Eric had already returned. "I'm back," I announced cheerfully as I opened the door. As I stepped into the living room, all three of them began talking over each other in a rush, creating a chaotic commotion. I was initially taken aback but managed to calm everyone down. My mother-in-law then began to recount a harrowing incident from the previous night. After they had settled in for the night at the hotel, they were startled by the sounds of rustling and the distinct noise of someone entering their room. Paralyzed with fear, my mother-in-law lay silently in bed while the intruders seemed to roam around the room. After about 12 minutes, the unwelcome visitors left as silently as they had arrived. Despite the scare, my mother-in-law eventually fell back asleep, only to discover in the morning that all their valuables, including wallets and smartphones left out on the desk, were stolen. The only items spared were a coin pouch and a key holder that Eric had kept inside his jacket's pocket. In a panic, they informed the hotel staff of the incident, only to be met with a demand for payment for the room. Shockingly, the hotel staff did not even offer to call the police. Feeling helpless, the troubled trio used coins. Eric had to make a call from a public phone to a nearby relative, pleading for help. Fortunately, their relatives arrived swiftly, covering the hotel charges and arranging for their safe return home. As my mother-in-law finished the story, the gravity of the situation and the validation of my initial concerns became clear to everyone in the room. After the incident, my in-laws and Eric were quick to shift the blame onto me. "If only you had warned us more seriously to leave, we wouldn't have ended up in this mess," my mother-in-law scolded sharply. Eric chimed in, echoing her sentiment. "That's right, Laura. You bear some responsibility for this. What are you going to do about it?" But the truth was, they had left me behind and despite my warning, chose to ignore it. "I did warn you," I replied calmly, yet firmly. Eric's face turned pale, his frustration boiling over. "Shut up. You're just the wife. Don't get cheeky. We're getting a divorce. I can't put up with you anymore," he declared. Stunned by his sudden declaration, I walked quietly to our bedroom, retrieved something from the cabinet, and returned to the living room to confront him. "Divorce? Fine by me. I don't need a husband who won't stand up for his mistreated wife," I declared, holding out the divorce papers I had preemptively prepared by a lawyer, foreseeing such a possibility. Eric stammered, "Maybe we should take some time to think about it." However, my mother-in-law saw an opportunity to escalate things. "You should just get rid of such a terrible wife now. Your mom will find you someone better," she urged, pushing Eric toward finalizing the divorce. Unable to resist his mother's influence, Eric agreed to the divorce. "Well then, goodbye. Please enjoy your life with your beloved family," he said, his voice breaking with emotion. Ignoring his distressed state, I left the house. Through my lawyer, I submitted the divorce papers, and the divorce was finalized, despite Eric's later attempts to reconcile. I chose to ignore all his efforts. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law, who had been pleased to get rid of me, seemed happy only briefly. The news of our divorce and the reasons behind it spread quickly through the neighborhood, fueled by the local gossip. People began to connect the dots between my mother-in-law's mistreatment and the divorce, revealing her unpleasant nature. She soon began to face judgmental stares from neighbors, and the prospect of finding a new wife for Eric was no longer appealing or straightforward. I returned to my hometown and, thanks to a friend's recommendation, found a new job. After all that I had been through, I was content to take a break from marriage. I planned to enjoy being single for a while, savoring the freedom and peace it brought me.